Typhoon Hinnamnor sweeping through South Korea tonight. A dangerous typhoon impact is underway for the islands of Jeju and the rest of South Korea this evening. This storm is currently at 32.7 north, 126.8 degrees east as of 10 p.m. Korean time this September 5th. It has winds of 105 miles per hour, that's 170 kilometers per hour, and an estimated pressure of 934 millibars, moving north-northeast at 16 miles per hour now, 26 kilometers per hour. Category 2 on the Saffir-Simpson scale, and typhoon warnings are of course in effect. Here is its current position displayed on the map. As you can see, very close to Jeju, and look at the size of those wind fields. That's for gale force winds up to 235 nautical miles to the northeastern quadrant. It is 62 kilometers from Shogwipo on the southern part of Jeju. The city of Jeju itself 92 kilometers, Gwangju 270, Busan 342, and Fukuoka in northern Kyushu 351. At the current pace, the storm will sweep through the southern coast of Korea throughout this evening and is going to accelerate as it does so. So the onset of very inclement conditions will be rather quick. Dangerous winds are expected to affect that large area, over 10 million people inside the threat for damaging winds. The storm will also carry a substantial storm surge and heavy rainfall over South Korea, which is likely to cause flash flooding and landslides. Over 20 million people in the threat for heavy rainfall. So this is a real deal. It is possibly the worst typhoon to affect the area in over a decade, and so it needs to be taken very seriously. As we go through the rest of this week, it will move off to the northeast and become post-tropical as it moves through eastern Russia, and have an enormous wind field as it broadens out and slowly dies off as it continues northeastwards, and it will be dissipated by Friday. But in terms of its tropical impacts, they're only going to last for a couple more days before Hinnamnor becomes extratropical. There's the JTWC forecast cone on the left hand side, depicting a landfall that will occur at about, just trying to get this right, about 4 a.m. local time near Busan. In terms of the wind estimates, JMA and Force 13's analyst team going with 105 miles per hour, JWC still quite a bit higher at 115, and AMSU at 120, ADT only supporting 90. Here is a graphic from South Korea showing all of the warnings. The deep red of course being typhoon warnings, and they're in effect for a large chunk of the southern part of the country. I don't think you would expect anything different, quite honestly, with other related warnings. I'm not sure if those were wind warnings further north or rain. Here's the computer models from the GFS showing that landfall is very close at hand, and we're expecting it probably still to be a category 2 storm by the time it makes landfall. It will probably weaken maybe a little bit more, so I would expect maybe a 100 mile per hour landfall. That would be 160 kilometers per hour, and then it moves off very quickly northeastwards. As you know, the wind field will be very large throughout as well, and a lot of areas will be severely affected by that. There's the precipitation, the water vapor view, and you'll notice that its energy dies off very quickly after it moves through the islands and the coastline, but for that brief period at the beginning, it's still going to be a very difficult time with lots of heavy rain occurring. So just how much heavy rain will it be? Well, we're looking once again at more rainfall total estimates once we get onto our next graphic. We're still expecting quite a bit more rainfall. I don't know how much has fallen so far, but radar certainly shows a very active picture. But we are expecting probably up to about 10 inches of further rainfall for parts of South Korea. Looks like it will be displaced more towards the eastern coast now, as well as a secondary area to the north, not far from the border with North Korea. So we're looking at maximums from this point forward. That would be further rainfall from this point forward of 10 inches. That's 250 millimeters of more rain for areas along the eastern coast of South Korea, from Busan through Ulsan and beyond. So a multifaceted hazardous storm on tap. Sea surface temperatures are still remaining pretty decent. Underneath the storm it's about 28 degrees. Ahead of it, still some areas of 29 pushing 30 degrees Celsius before the temperatures really wear off once it enters the Sea of Japan to around 25. Also along the western periphery of the storm, the temperatures are much cooler as well. Of course it's not going over there, but just an interesting point to note. So sea surface temperatures will be conducive all the way through its closest pass. Here's some satellite imagery of the storm then at this point, and you can see that its large influence is continuing to impact the whole of the Korean peninsula and Kyushu. The centre of the storm though is drawing very near to Jeju right now. The eye collapsed on satellite. It's still quite visible on the radar imagery, which we'll look at in a moment, but the gradual movement is towards the northeast. It looks like it will just clip the eastern tip of Jeju and possibly move just a few miles offshore and then head towards Busan. So still it's pretty much on track for that forecast. Here's another look without the perspective shot, with the storm there still blowing up large amounts of convection into the -70s and still looking rather impressive. Certainly worth Category 2 status. Here's another view of how it's progressed over a longer time period. That eye collapsed quite a long time ago now. This is a view over the last, I think, 12 hours. And somewhere there should be another view of what's been going on with the storm. There it is, another shot from RAM showing another view of how it's progressed. And finally, let's look at some current radar images. This is how the storm has been looking from Korean radar. Let's zoom right in there and take a look at the eye feature, which is still very much there, not far from Jeju, which is receiving periods of 30 millimeters of rain per hour rain rates at times, with those very strong bands coming through there now. The eye wall itself, the inner eye wall, will get close. I'm not sure whether it will hit, but it will certainly get close, and I would suggest that maybe it probably will. Further north, when you look at the coast of the mainland of South Korea, extremely heavy rain rates there right now in the southwest. In the southeast, not quite so much yet. That's going to change later. And towards the western coast there, a huge amount of rain still once again further up the coast, and for the northern part of South Korea as well, we're looking at high rain rates up there too, entering those yellows, which is 5 millimeters per hour, to the oranges, which is 10 millimeters per hour on that color scale. So a very messy storm there. It will have extremely powerful winds, it will have a dangerous storm surge, and of course those heavy rainfall expectations. Rain rates as well as rain totals could contribute to large amounts of flooding.